Hello everyone, thanks for joining. And today's video we're going to start talking about the unfinished dashboard starter kits. So we're going to go to documentation in this case, as always, in this case, and we're going to go to dashboard starter kits, and we're going to copy in this case, and we're going to install in any directory of your wish. So I'm going to open terminal in this case and paste the command. So I'm going to press enter in this case, and well, this is the fix in this case, because remember the dashboard starter kit was how in previous version was have some issue. So let's see what's the request. Hold on, what about, let me see, npx create Prisma PHP latest. What about this latest? No, let's see what it's happening, because I see that I tested before installing this. Maybe something, it's not working properly. Let's see. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, while it's installing, we're going to start talking about the future or upcoming version for Prisma PHP. Let's see, from the version above, in this case from the current version above, what we're going to see is that Prisma PHP is going to be focused more on AI development. In this case, maybe creating a MD file for documentation, and maybe the local MCP can be maybe become deprecated, but maybe in afterward we're going to talk more about that. And the Docker, I sure about the Docker, that Docker is going to be deprecated in this year, in this case, because Prisma version 5, it's going to come fully IA artificial intelligence focus in this case. Okay, so let's see if we can install in this case again. Maybe dashboard starter kit. Yes, let's see what about. No, something is not working as expected. So Yes, I know what is happening in this case. Yes, of okay, 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 okay. Okay, I know what is happening. So I'm going to update um, that and leave everything ready because I know what is happening because the issue is that the dashboard in this case it's trying to install Prisma PHP package which is not in that section in this case. So that's the issue. Yes, I don't know how that gonna. I didn't upload that. Okay, let me see if I get fixed fast. Just to review, in this case, package creation. I never noticed that was. Okay, well, anyway, I'm going to fix that and leave everything ready. But, well, in this case, what I'm going to do is that we're going to focus on advancing in building the dashboard. So afterward, I'm going to fix everything and leave it complete fix. I know the issue because the issue is all about the one package that I miss and upload in this case. But I was working on that package in um, in another package, but yes, it's trying to install that package. Anyway, okay, okay. So I'm going to run this, in this case, npm run dev. So this is the package which currently I'm working on. In this case, this is the same package which is the Prisma dashboard. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to come, in this case, go to dashboard. And there we go. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to clean the cache, clear cache. And we're going to go to sign in direct in this case. This thing, it's not working again. I don't, but I think I'm going to remove this thing because it's not saving the changes, and there is no way to change, save changes or things like that. Anyway, okay. First thing, what I want to do is that when I go to the the sign in, let's say when the form is submitting in this case, I want to disable the button in this case. So what I'm going to do is that I say loading, and then in this case get loading through, and when this finish, in this case, we can even wait until everything finish. Let's say set message, loading files, so on. So this way, we want to have this and in disable button. Okay, there we go. But remember, it's an attribute in this case. So there we go. Now we have. So when I press loading, say signing annual email. So we want to leave the correct email, in this case 154, and there we go. Okay, what next we're going to do is that I'm going to work in the header. In this case, I don't want this input, all this. I want the notification and the user in this case. So I'm going to maintain that. I'm going to go to the header in this case. So I'm going to search for the notification icon. Okay, so afterward we're going to change the fonts. So we're going to go to our stitch in this case, which we used to have before. Remember, this was the working dashboard, so we want to start working on this. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to click in this case view the code, and there we go. And as you can see in this case, the Google fonts, there we go. This is the Google fonts which is going to be working in this case. So there we go. It say fill this and that, but I'm not going to use that because just I want the fonts in this case, the family in this. So you can do two things in this case. Come into the main layout and paste, and then you get the fonts in this case, the fonts as you want it. But the another one is that if you want only for the dashboard, you can go to main layout of the dashboard layout in this case. So I'm going to go to main layout in this case. Let's say add footer header script in this case. I'm going to copy paste this and refresh. Same effect in this case. As you can see, the same idea is going to be applied at the header script. No, this is the add header. Yes, head script. It is. Yes. So there we go. We have the fonts as you can see, how as we want it in this case. But well, how I'm working in this case, uh, see the font. Okay, now let's add the font, and there we go. Okay, now we have our fonts working as expected. So what I'm going to start working is first in my notification icon. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go do here in PP icons, and I'm going to go let's search for, I think, bell. Yes, bell. Copy, and then what we're going to do is that I'm going to go to the terminal, paste bell. It's been installed, and then header, and we're going to start searching for notification, and then we're going to search for bell plus let's see what was material outline notification, and I think the size is about 4. I don't know. I 4. I think it was 5. Let's see. 5. It's quite looking good. Okay, so next thing, I don't want this section in this case. So this section, okay. Now we go, and then I don't want, I want the bell, yes, and this, what, not this new report. So I just want the user in this case. There we go. Class justify pixel, yes. Am I going? Size. Hmm. There is no need to have padding in this case. I know it's need. In this case, you have gap image, margin left. Okay, there we go. So what I want is now I want to align this to the end. we can say justify n, and there we go. So now when I click to the notification or to this, I want, let's say, maybe drop down. So that we need to know. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to come in this case to the XPX UI, which is where I have we have the components. So let's say maybe drop down menu, and let's say, okay, there we go. We have drop down menu. I need this. Okay, so I'm going to install this component, paste drop down menu. Now this image, when I click to this image, I want to activate the drop down. So let me see an example in this case. To the code drop down menu. Let me add this, copy, and then in this section, drop down menu, trigger, button. There we go. There we go. So I think I'm going to have a button and voila. Ooh. Nice. Okay, so now I have my account in this case. I think I'm going to have the username and the profile in this case. When I click to the profile, I want to open a dialog in this case. So profile dialog. So in my account, in this case, instead of saying my account, what I want to put is the username in this case. Let's say the username. So how I'm going to get the user info? The logged in user, we're going to use live, in this case authentication, and then we're going to import the out file, and then so we're going to get the user, in this case user, so in for out get instance, and then we're going to get the payload, in this case get payload, and so here we have the user information. So what I'm going to do is just going to, let's say, just echo, no, because you can't echo, just print the user, in this case print user, just to see the user information. Okay, so there we go, the user information, and here it is. As you can see, is array, in this case of objects. We have the username, user ID, the role, and so on, so on. Okay, so now I have the user information. Easily I'm going to come and, let's say, in this case, user name. So let's see. Okay, now in this case, when I click, I have the username. Easy as that. So after now I have this information, I'm going to I need the profile in this case. Billing settings. No, I don't need this. I need this super API. I need the logout in this case, but I don't need this section about GitHub, things like that. So yes, the logout. We're going to use the logout in this case. So there we go. We have open. In this case, I have one on the profile, and then the logout. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to cut this, and then instead of the button in this case, the open, I'm going to place this image. So now I have my user in this case, but I see that the user have some issue with the button. So what I'm going to do is that paste this, and this is not going to work as child. So let's go see what about, there we go, and we click and we have the profile now. Okay, next thing, in this case, when I click to log out, what I want to do is that I want to log out the user. So I'm going to close here. I'm going to go and click to the logout. And when I click to the logo, I want to log out the user. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create, in this case, expose a function which it's going to require require, in this case, require out through function log out. Okay, so this, and then what I'm going to do is that what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a script tag, in this case, and create a async function, and then handle logout, uh, handle logout, and let's go and click on the logo. Perfect. So now, instead of this, what I'm going to do is just I'm going to cancel out what is happening if the trigger is happening. Okay. So open this, go to the console now. There we go. Logging up. No, I'm wrong. In this case, I'm wrong. This is going to happen only when you click to the, yeah, okay. Here, there we go. Login now. Oof. Now, how we know we already having the information. So what we're going to do is that we're just going to await pp fetch function and then logout. We are not going to send anything, and then the out get instance. We're going to sign out, and we're going to redirect, in this case, redirect true. So it's going to redirect, in this case. Maybe if you want to redirect somewhere else, we're going to redirect. But the redirection is going to happen, in this case, leave out in this section. As you can see, when the redirect happens, it's going to go to the sign in, because when user aren't logged in, it's going to the sign in. Okay, easy as that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to save, in this case. So this is going to, let's say, log out the user. Easy as that. We have our user logging out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, next. So in this case, you already know how to implement the user. If you want, you can use the bell for notification, things like that. But I'm going to leave on your own. And the next one, we can implement this profile to open maybe a dialog about the user profile. So, but we're going to focus on creating, in this case, the user row. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to come, in this case, settings going to stay there waiting for you. Maybe if you want any setting rows, but I'm going to create users, in this case, users.php in this case, and in the side, we're going to maybe the team, instead of saying teams, we're going to put users, and now it's going to be users, dashboard users, and there we go. So users, and when we click, we go to users. So what we're going to do is that we're going to come and start working all the users row requirements. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to start creating a table, just a table in this case. So I'm going to come here, search for table. Let's search for table. Table. Okay, there we go. We have a table in this case. So I'm going to install this table. Madam. Okay, then I'm going to come to the table and copy this table, easy as that, and paste it. So this way, I'm going to start importing the table information, table body, table cell, save, and there we go. As you can see, now we have the table. And now what I want is that I need a search in this case to the top of the table. So um, let's put a just for now input in this case. So I'm going to import input and placeholder spreadsheet. Just that. And there we go. We have a user input and to search. After we're going to verify all this, but what we need is the basic information of the users, which it's going to allow us to get more understanding about the CRUD operation. All right. So now first thing first, what we need is that we need to know about our user schema. So our user have name, email, and image. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use just the name and email to show in this case. So first thing first, I'm going to use Prisma ORM in this case. We already talk about Prisma ORM in this case. So I'm going to start using that. Okay, afterward, I'm going to start using RPC for everything to load user information instead of using native PHP because Prisma PHP is native React. It's reactive by default. So it give you many opportunity to do what you maybe think. So leave in this case Prisma classes and then we import Prisma. So then what we're going to do is that I'm going to for users in this case. So first we need to get the Prisma variable. So from Prisma and get instance, and then we're going to get the Prisma and then user, then let's define many because remember afterward we're going to do pagination, all those things. Then. So in this case, I have the user, so I'm going to create a script that which it's going to be users JSON. So in this case, what we're going to do is that yes, JSON code users, and then we're going to log up the users. Easy as this, we already have the user information. Right? What about the inspect? Okay, we have array in this case. As you can see, we have the array which have a single user currently, only one. We have user just like that. And as you can see, in this case, we have the password too, but we don't want the password. So what I'm going to do is that we're going to start, let's say, omitting things. So I'm going to omit in this case, omit password true. We have our array, and there we go. As you can see, easy as this, we omit the password. There is no password in this case. So we are good to go. Now what I want is that I want to, let's say, width 25. Let's use the width 25 in this case. So there we go. Okay, this is going to be the username, email, and maybe the user number in this case. Maybe we don't need it, and this can't be options, so I'm going to leave empty. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to start using template in this case. So I'm going to cut this um, table row and template in this case pt4 user in users. From where this going to come? From here. So say cons users and set users in this case pp state users JSON. We are passing this way. Easy as this, we're going to get users in this case. So instead of no, it's single in this case, we're going to say user dot in this case the name and then email. We don't have any credit card in this case. We have a option of maybe button edit and let's import the button component in this case, and then we have the button delete. All right, instead of those button, what we're going to do is to replace with icons. But easy as this, we already have our user list. See, so this way we can get user. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to come to the pp icons, which is very good. So let me say, let's say edit. Now I think it's pencil. Yes, we have this copy, and now what we're going to do is that I'm going to copy paste. All right, now we have the pencil. So instead of edit, what we're going to do is that we're going to import the pencil, give us a of plus. We're going to give a size maybe about 4. I think 4 is good size. And then we're going to install. I know this is uh, trash pan, so trash. That's all we need. So let's keep trash plus size 4. Okay, now voila, nice. So we have our buttons in this case. As you can see, our buttons is very it's looking good. So when you click here, I want to open the current user and edit. And when you click here, I want to open, let's say we're going to open an alert dialog, which is going to ask you if you want to delete the user. Okay, so first thing first, what we're going to do is that we're going to click the to get the user information when we click the edit button. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to close the terminal to get some space and go to the button in this case. In this case, the button of the pencil because it's going to start editing. So and click, and I'm going to create a function. Function edit user, and I'm going to cancel log. Let's say when I want the user information instead of just so let's say edit user and pass the user information. This way, easy as this, I'm going to close this. This way, when I click, I get the user information. Now I can update this and do any kind of stuff I want. So next thing, what we're going to do, we're going to separate responsibility because we don't want the user information to be the update section be here, to create the user be here, and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a container, in this case container, which is going to have a class. Well, we're going to make it flex in this case, and so we're going to maybe justify between item center, bargaining button yes, and now we have a button add user, And now we have the search here and we have the user here. So this way, in this case, let me say class magnet button. What are you doing? You're just going to say with fit. So just fit the width. That's there we go. Okay. So now I have the user. You could make it more larger because afterward we're going to start working on the thing. But when I click to the add user and edit user, it is going to start working, maybe adding the form. So afterward, I having that information, I'm going to create a directory and I'm going to name it components in this case. Let me see if I'm creating directory. Or I'm going to create a file directly. So components, then in components, I'm going to structure the dashboard for directory. So I'm going to say dashboard slash users in this case because I have the row name users, and inside user I'm going to place the users component. So what I'm going to have is create update dialog.php. So in this case, what I need is to add a dialog from when to start searching. So I need a dialog. Okay, there we go. Dialog, and when I click, it's going to open this dialog for edit and for create. So that's the idea. So I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy the code. Let's say install baby. There we go. We have the installation completed, and I'm just going to copy this, paste. It's just this import dependency. Please don't. And there we go. Here we go. Description. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to close this sidebar. Go away. No. PHP import component. Always use import component because afterward, what going to happen is that the import component is going to be stable um, in the version which is coming new versions in this case in Prisma PHP. So in the tracker include tracker, it's not going to be used anymore. So import component is the one you need to. So afterward render, in this case, you already know a path which makes very easy to get information component dashboard, and this main already get information for me. There we go. We have our dialog button here, and I click. It's open the dialog. Easy as this. So now what I can do, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to pass the the open manager in this case. Let's say the open controller, because remember in React they call it control it and uncontrol it. In this case, I need a control it dialog. So I'm going to say div because I need a container which where I'm going to let's say add the user information. So in this case, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to create a script, let's say pp effect, which I'm going to get in this case when I click the user. In this case, I'm going to create a cons, let's say selected item. I'm going to say item for general because remember when I say user, it's going to be user. But what if you copy this information, go to all right, anyway, let's say user because it's about user. So user, selected user, and things like that. And then remember you could leave it just null and things like that, and then you're going to have this information. Now, this information we need to pass to the create dialog to open. When we open you, we need the information to update. But when it's new, we don't need um, um, any information to edit. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to create another constant. So I'm going to call it open create update dialog. open dialogues, so on. So just say open, create the dialogue. I think I'm so specific in this case. So say okay, anyway. Okay, and now I'm going to do is that just I'm going to paste those information here as array, and there we go. So let's say open, and there we go. And we're going to pass this information, same idea. So now, okay, select the user. Okay, now the thing is that when we pass this information, these are passing as props. So what we're going to do is that we're going to capture here. So what dependency you want to read? I want to read this information and cancel log if there any selected user in this case. When I click edit, this is going to be fulfilled with the user, with the selected user in this case. So I'm going to just save all this, and we don't have any errors in this case. So we still open our dialog, but when we click, there is no opening dialog. Okay, now let's fix. So now we already know that we need to open this. In this case, when I press open, I already know that I'm sending this information. Open dialog, so I'm going to paste, and now I'm going to save it. So let's say I'm open from here, and now when I click to edit, open from here. Easy as that. Now let's get the user information, and when we click add user, we need to open the user too in this case. So we can use, let's say we can create a function. In this case, let's create a function um, add new user, and there we go. So in this case, selected user is going to be null, and so on. So now when I click, as you can see, the selected user is changed, changes happen null, but when I click here, check this, selected user changes, and we have the user information. So now easily I can use it in this dialog, So I'm going to remove this section because I'm not going to use uncontrolled mode, but I'm going to set this instead of deleting in this case. I absolute true. Which information I'm looking at the dialog. This more look like when you are doing something like deleting things like that. Something I should copy this code better. Yes, this is the one. This is the one. But anyway, how I already import the dependencies, they're not going to be okay. Let me install the label in this case. PHP add label, easy as this. We already have our label, and now we're going to what about, let me import the label. I already have the dialog form, dialog, dialog close button, and now I think our form is ready to test. We open and up. There we go. Here we have our form. So now let's remove this dialog. Trigger, open dialog, and now let's paste the open, and let's copy, paste, and there we go. Okay, so now click open and things like that. So now what I want is that I'm going to place the user information. Currently we have the name and the email. So we have name and email. So cancel. And now the easiest part is here. Select the username, select the user. It's going to be email in this case. Instead, there we go, email name. And now we need to see the user information. And there we go. Nice. And as you can see, easy as this, we have complete separation of responsibility, and you are just passing the props in this case. So I'm going to paste this, and there we go. So the props is that when you pass the information like open, create, and the set, in this case selected, things like that, you are working in front end only, because as you can see there is no backend request like Laravel um, does in when you are working with livewire. So when we click in this case in Laravel livewire, this is going to make a request to the server, because remember livewire works the states of the the information stays in the server, so the state should be returned in this case. So that's why livewire needs to make a backend request. But in Pulse Point, in this case, or Prisma PHP, which use Pulse Point, we aren't making server requests because we are working local only in this case. In this case, client only. So when we click this, we already have this information. So what we are passing is that we are setting reactively only this user, and then passing as props, and this section is going to capture the user information, and we're going to get that information easy as this. So this way you going to get the information, and we're going to use this. Okay, next I'm going to remove this because I know that already working. So let's create a async function which is going to handle submit and in the form. So on submit, in this case, we're going to pass, I'm going to say that should be uh, e E, E, oh, whatever. I'm going as yes, the event and cancel log. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the cancel log. So there we go. And now when I click save changes, the idea is that we print the information of this input. So there we go, and the form is closed because we put this section to close. So we get the user information and the name. And in this case, updating user information, we cancel out the information. Okay, now we already know that we have the user information for update and for create. Easy as this, now we can have a function. We're going to expose a function. So let's say expose, where my intelligence? Oh, yeah. Okay. Where, oh, I don't know why. Ah, no. My bad. Sorry. My bad. So there we go. Now I have intelligence require out true, and now we have function, function create update dialog, create the user, let's say, and then I'm going to receive the data, and then let's say I'm going to get the name, which is going to be validator from pp. Make sure that you get it from pp, and I'm going to say that this is going to be a string, and I'm going to get the data, which is coming from the name, and let's leave it empty. So I'm going to repeat this. I'm going to get the email, and I'm going to say in this case email. Okay, now if not name or email return, we're going to return a message which is going to be success, because this is going to be a custom message, true, and then the message which you want to return in this case. So false, yes. Let's say maybe here we are updating, or when we are creating in this case, because when we're creating we don't have yet implement the create, so add new user, let's unclick. We're just going to execute that. So in this case, let's say I'm going to add new user, open the dialog, and I want to save changes. In this case, let's say I'm not going to save change. I'm not going to close the dialog before. So a new user, save changes. I get the user information, but it's empty. So what about if I fulfill, save changes? I get the user information in this case. So the easy way of I'm going to remove this information from here. Okay, let's have that information just there. So I think now this is magic. This is Prisma PHP Magic RPC. Let's say cons. We're going to get response, and we're going to await pp fetch function, and then we're going to search for create update user, but I'm going to put in, I'm going to follow that naming convention, creating the user, and then this is going to be the data. Easy as this. We're going to get the user data, and let's see what it's going to return. Okay, now when we click and we want to send the user, we get the information empty, and let's see, there we go. We select the user, and copy this, paste this, and now next thing what I see is that when we open, if I click outside, as you can see, the dialog is closing. So what I'm going to say, close and overlay, click false. So this way, when the dialog is open, when I click outside, I don't want to close, because remember we're going to be open, so I want to click to close the dialog. So this way, I'm sure that when I finish, or I'm not going to be closing accidentally. So this way. Okay, next thing what we're going to do is that I'm going to click here to clean up the network. But let me see. I'm going to click to add user, and then there we go. We make a request, and we get the message what we were sending from the backend, in this case from PHP, and say name and email are required. Beautiful message. Now I can say that in the header, in this case, maybe we can have a a p tag, which is going to have the message which is coming from the backend. So let's see, in this case, we're going to say cons request message. So we're going to say there, and in this case, if success, and there we go. Easy as this. We're going to open new, and then I'm going to close this, and we have this message. Now we want to place this message to this e tag, and then let's put a class which is going to have the text and destructive. Okay, so there we go. Now close this, add new, empty, and fail to create username and email are required. Wow. And as you can see, single request, very secure, because you are validating, in this case, in, and we need to put required here, true. There we go, required to. So this way you are validating front end, and then you are validating back end too. Easy as this, you already know that you're going to do the correct validation. Okay, so recap. This response is going to have the success true if everything's are working correctly. So now let's say it's that name and email are sent. So we are confirming that email is correct, and we're going to create now a Prisma instance, and let's import use Prisma I think for auto completion, I like what Ia doing in this case. So what I'm going to do is that let's first find out if the user exists, or we already getting the user information, so we should get the user information or update it right away. So you can decide what or how you want to handle this. So first thing first, we should or we need to find out if the email aren't being used by another user email, because it's very important that the email should be unique, because remember, if we are replacing another user email, we're going to have a problem. So we're going to say user email exists in this case, and where, let's say the user should be not having the same ID in this case. Hmm, let me review some class. Yes. Okay. Okay, so in this case, let's say this is going to happen when you are updating the user. So if the email exists, well, we're going to say, okay, we're going to get the ID to, in this case, validator. In this case, this is string CYD, so it's CUID. Okay, so now we can do our validation return. So email already exists. Okay, next, if ID, we're going to update, and if not, we're going to start working on this section. So there we go. Okay, create new user. Here we have password, string, what the algo. Okay, anyway, in this case, so what we're going to do is that we got the update user and the create new user. So we're going to create a new user, name, email, and the password. But we are not passing the password in this case, so we need to pass the user password too. So, okay, we don't have that section in this case, so let's duplicate this. Password. Yes. Oh, password. So in this case, when the user select the password, so we're going to get the password too from this section. So we are not going to omit this password. Yes, because if we are getting the password, we are getting the user information correctly. So this way, if the password in this case selected exists, we're going to set the password. But no, we are wrong. We are, in this case, we are good to go here, and we are not going to set the password, because when you are updating, you can't leave, like say, um, it's going to be optional, because so we're going to put placeholder in this case, placeholder to say um, empty to keep correct password. So when you are editing in this case, the password is going to be empty. So this way, we're going to start. See what this thing. I don't like that. Okay, so this way we already know that we're going to have the user in the password. So we're going to get the password here. So, okay, password. Okay, so in this case, in password, in maybe in next video, we're going to start maybe using rules, because it's very important that you need to know that rules exist in this case when you are validating. In this case, let's say I'm going to validate here, where it is, class usage, and validator. Okay, so in validator, you need to know that there is a valid role-based validation. In this case, requirement 50, things like that. So this way, easy you can validate. But we're going to just say we need a string, and if you pass the password, things like that. But remember, in next video, we're going to finish the complete information. So for this, we're going to say that we're going to use the password. In this case, we're going to hash the password and pass. This error means that the extension um, um, PHP this currently have not is not validating as expected. So what we can do is, if you want, hash password pass this information, hash password, and there we go. We okay. So now now in this case, we when we are creating, we're going to need the password. The password should be, let's say, required, no? So we can, let's say, maybe put a conditional required. In this case, let's say only if the user selected exists. So we're going to say that required is going to activate. So we can do that too, and then we're going to have an end. So let's say required, and when, let's say, selected user, that password, and when you're going to get activate. So easy as this. In this case, the require is going to activate when it's edit mode, and when it's create new, it's going to when it's create new, it's going to activate, and when it's not going to activate. So in this case, we're going to hash the password. After we're going to, let's say, we're going to do everything as coming. So now we're going to say, let's say, if um if not id id, there we go, we have this message which is going to protect. So if there is no id and no password, you can't pass. And then we're going to hash the password, and let's remove this, and this is going to ensure that the password always going to be passed. So we're going to remove this, and now we're sure that the hash password is going to be passed. No, let's test. So first we have password, Prisma fill John, and let's see this example. Refresh. We have John text example. In this case, easy as this, we already create. So next thing, I don't want to be refreshing every time when I create a user. So what we're going to do, because yes, we're going to do only that section, and then we're going to um, push the repo. Okay, so when I create the user, I want to reactively not reload or not to request back to the backend, because the backend already is going to send the user. So I'm going to reuse that information. So here it's going to be the users. So I'm going to say that I'm going to send users, in this case, both users and set users. So when I create or update the user, in this case, let's say user created successfully, instead of doing this, what I'm going to say is that I'm going to close the dialog and set users. In this case, here we go. Now, now we are good to go. So add user, Let me think again that maybe the email are working. So let's say save changes. No, failed to create user. Email is already exists. Okay, so now let's say test two. In this case, I'm already setting the password. So let's say I'm going to remove the password. And wow, there we go. We have the reactively password activation. So we're going to say 123, and now let's try to create. And in this case, I'm going to say test two. Save changes. There we go. Magic. And as you can see, we just have a single request in this case in the backend. So now the easiest part is that when we want to, I'm going to reload, and there we go. We already have the information. So if I want to edit, in this case, I'm just going to say test and save changes. And remember to remove this because this already setting from the name. So we're going to keep using the same for password empty to keep the current password. So in this case, in edit mode, what we're going to do is that in update has password, we're not going to pass this information if we don't have any password. So what we're going to do is that we're going to so if we have a password in this case, if we're going to create in this case we're going to have a data email. So and then in this case when if has password, then we're going to create, and then we're going to replace this with the data. Okay, whatever. And now we're good to go. Because let's say this is going to be the data. So if we pass the password, we're going to replace the new password with the hash password, else we're going to leave it empty. So there we go. Easy as this. We're going to say the test2 is going to be test23, and in this case, this password is getting set by the autocomplete of the browser because as you can see in my input, we're going to disable the auto autocomplete. It's going to be new, I think it's new password. Because I don't like that the auto completion of the this thing. So when we go to test, in this case, as you can see, it's still empty because my browser is respecting the name. So it is going to be 23 or things like that, any way you want. So then save changes, and the password is going to maintain 23. Current password, what about? What now? Select the user. I think should remove it because in the browser we are already managing this. So in this case, um, so when it's update, okay, here we're going to if success. Okay, there we go. I think this information it's quite good. So the user in this case, we're going to map the user by user ID and get the response and pass the user and just like that. As you can see, easy as this. So now let's go. No, not going to update that. I'm going to test the user, and now save changes. Field to the password is required for new user, but we are doing new user. So let's see what it's sending. Because this is the last files password and payload email password. Okay, name password name. Okay, I know what is happening in this case. So let's say when it's edit, say if, there we go. There we go. Okay, now edit it and save changes. Voila. So as you can see, the create and the update data, easy as that, we have completed the 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 information, and we have complete separation of the logic. In this case, as you can see, the index stay intact, the dialog in this case, it stay as is, and this one. Okay, so and the next thing is that we're going to create the delete and the other things. So we're just going to confirm that everything is working as expected. Go save. There we go. And let's say, oof, lovely, lovely baby. And save changes. Lovely. There we go. We complete the task. Okay. Now to sum up, I'm going to upload this information so you can have in your Git repo. Just go to GitHub. I forget to put into the here. So in this case, you're going to go to the create Prisma. Let me upload first. So this way, it's going to get the first changes. There we go. Okay, refresh. Okay, there we go. In this case, the URL it's going to be this GitHub, this Team Ninja Code, Prisma PHP dashboard. Easy as this, and then you get the holy name. Or even in the repo, you can clone the information, but I'm going to fix that afterward in back in camera off. So this way you can get Prisma PHP very performant. Okay, to sum up, if there any question you can ask those, you can ask now. Anyone? Okay, to sum up, as you can see, we create the index, in this case, in the users row index.php, which it contain the user information. We are not passing the user password because it's very important that you protect always that the user password. So we are listing the users. And then we are using reactive. So this way you are requesting a bunch of time to your backend just for edit or for create user. So when you are creating user, you're going to request and then you're going to update because it's reactive, no? Because Prisma PHP it's reactive by default, by native. So in this case, what I'm doing is sharing props. I'm sharing these properties which I have in the index, and then in my component, in this case, component dashboard user, in this case, I'm doing all the backend logic and using a powerful technique which is called RPC. There we go. And I'm calling to the PHP function direct from the front end. And this way I'm getting the information, validating everything working as expected. As you can see, I create user, update the user information, save changes. There we go, reactive. And in next video, we're going to start deleting. Okay. what's coming next in Prisma PHP in maybe in next versions. In this case, let's get to the version. Okay, so version 4.4.9 is stable enough for building complete and complex production ready project. As you can see, I'm building a almost complete dashboards, which you can see in not only in the live. Okay, next, we are working in Prisma PHP version 5, which is going to maybe it's going to be in alpha version, maybe God's per life in November this year. But it's going to be complete focus on AI in this case. It's going to have a agent integrated, which it can build components, which can handle RPC technique, things like that. No, because we are trying to give Prisma PHP a priority in this case. Okay. What next? You are having when Prisma version 5 came in alpha version, it's not going to have support completely for Docker, because we are removing this option because we're going to focus on Docker examples when you are deploying to Docker itself, or when you are deploying a platform like Railway, or when you are using cPanel, things like that. So we are not going to give you a special option to choose Docker only. So you're going to choose where you are deploying, because depends on your Docker platform. Next, in this case, the all the ES stuff it's going to extend, because we just know we have this MCP here, in this case, the server for working with MCP tool, which is very good. I'm using currently. I'm using to get information. But remember, this is for a specific task. When your database is too specific, so this way you can't get, because remember, MCP and skills and CLI have more potential, because MCP consume more context instead of agents and CLI. Because remember, when you give a CLI to artificial intelligence, it's very good. It's same like you are doing MCP. Most of the platform have CLI integration. In this case, you just install the CLI and you start working with that platform. In this case, maybe you are want to store S3 to SD bucket, maybe things like that, file, things like that. AWS already have that CLI, things like that. So you just use that instead of MCP, which consume more context. So all those difference information, maybe in next video we're going to start talking about. In this case, we have some rules which you can get your agents, but I think possible this going to be deprecated, possible. I want to analyze as we advancing to making more ear aware of Prisma PHP. Okay, next, what we're going to, this is the include tracker. Include tracker, it's going to be deprecated in this case in version 5. So you should not use include tracker, use import component, which is the twin of include tracker in this case. But this is the most this is the advanced way, because I start analyzing the use of include tracker, and then I start building a more complex and more complete import component in this case. So to not break the current version, I create this for future support. Okay, so saying this, now we're going to go holidays. So maybe we are coming back until 7 of the next month, maybe this day. Maybe we can get a video in this case, possibly, well, depending. So with this video, you can analyze and you can clone the repo and start maybe analyzing if you have any project with Prisma PHP. As you can see, Prisma PHP is very powerful framework which have powerful tool. You can do any kind of project on your mind. Only you need to understand the concept of the Prisma PHP, and that's all you need. Well, in this case, most of these techniques are quite new, because not the programming language itself, because it's JavaScript and it's PHP, but the concept of the technique, let's say RPC calling, function calling, things like that, that is new for IA, because IA is not trained on RPC of Prisma PHP or Pulse Point in this case. You need to tell to IA to be aware of those information. So in this case, okay, just this is just the database, so I'm just going to commit this and finish everything. So this way you have everything you need in your report. Right. Okay, this way, well, I'm going to leave this dashboard starter kit, and you can install anytime you want to direct start from start your project. So maybe next video we can finish the delete, adding things, search, and this and that pagination, all those stuff easy as we start building the dashboard. Okay, so thanks for joining, and happy coding, and see you in the next video.